The mother of a local murder victim says Canada's justice system is responsible for her son's death. His killer was out on bail, awaiting trial on separate charges. As Scott Miller reports, she says those bail rules need changing.
Tracy Sprung says her son would still be alive if the man who killed him wasn't released early from jail.
Because within days of his release, Scott, unfortunately, he killed my son.
Matthew McCrory was sentenced to life in prison for stabbing Emerson Sprung to death and burying him in a shallow grave in a Meaford Park in May of 2020. McCrory, who had an extensive criminal history dating back to 2001, was in jail in the months leading up to Sprung's murder on separate charges, but he was released at the height of COVID.
Between February and April 2020, our government released over 6,000 inmates with no regard for public safety. None at all. None.
Sprung and the MP for Bruce Grey Owen Sound, Alex Ruff, believe federal government legislation like Bill C-75, which directs judges to act with restraint when it comes to imposing bail conditions, even with violent repeat offenders, has contributed to the current catch-and-release bail system.
When you're rearresting the same offender multiple times on the same offenses, the message isn't getting across. So ultimately, you need to keep these people in jail because they're responsible for the preponderance of the crimes that are out there.
While the federal government has tabled bail reforms, Conservative MP Tracy Gray says in 2022 alone, 256 people were killed by a criminal who was either out on bail or on another form of release. Sprung is not only pushing for a coroner's inquest into her son's death and son's killer's release from jail, but is proposing the adoption of Erb's Law, named after her son, Emerson Raymond Bauman Sprung, to keep repeat violent offenders behind bars as they await trial or sentencing.
We're losing our children by the numbers because of your catch and release stupid program. Yeah. It's not working. It's failing. It murdered my son.
Matthew McCrory was sentenced to life in prison for killing Emerson Sprung in 2020. He can apply for parole in 15 years.
The fact is that he was, a prime example of a repeat offender, and ultimately that the situation he should have never been out in the first place.
The law's got to get changed today, not tomorrow, not next year, today.
In Midwestern Ontario, Scott Miller, CTV News.